So according to a recent study, 98% of people would like the option of working remotely, and 65% would like to work completely remotely full-time. So in this video, I'm gonna go over how you can work remotely on a part-time or full-time basis as a mortgage loan officer. We'll be going over what a loan officer is, what a loan officer does, and then we'll talk about how it's possible to work remotely as a loan officer, and then we'll end off by going over how to build a strong remote business as a mortgage loan officer. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so number one, let's talk about what a loan officer is and what a loan officer does. A loan officer is someone that helps families and or investors get a loan in order to purchase real estate. That could be a home that they're gonna live in, it can be a vacation home, or it could even be an investment property. Because most people, believe it or not, when they go to buy real estate, they don't buy it completely cash. Some cases they do, but for the most part, you're going to get a loan in order to purchase real estate. And that's where you come in as a mortgage loan officer. You help these people get that loan, qualify for that loan, choose the perfect loan in order for them to purchase that piece of property. And you'll do this by first having a strong understanding of the different programs and how they work, and then going over their application and their documentation, like their income, their debt, their credit, and their assets. Now, some other basic duties of a loan officer would be to communicate with an underwriter or a processor, right, to understand what kind of documentation are needed from your clients. Then you're gonna have to go out there and network and prospect in order to get these leads. Some companies, some organizations do offer you leads, but for the most part, you're gonna be going out there and getting these leads yourself. And you can be really creative with this. You can do cold calls, social media, email marketing, advertising on TV, or whatever it is. All right, number two, let's talk about how remote business is actually possible. Well, number one, everything is digital today. Tax returns, pay stubs, W-2 forms, bank statements, all the necessary documentation that you'll need from your client to complete a mortgage application, they can send it to you digitally, through email, through a secure portal. Most of you guys as a loan officer are going to have a secure portal where your clients can upload the documents. So you don't need to go to them and pick up the documents. They don't need to go to you and drop off the documents. They can send them to you digitally. And for the most part, even if they don't know how to do this, you can teach them, right? If they've never gotten a digital form of their bank statement, you can walk them through it. Or if they only have physical tax returns, you can get them in contact with their CPA, so the CPA sends them digital copies, right? So it's very, very, very possible to get all the necessary documentation via PDF. And then the second point here is that the mortgage application, most of you guys are gonna have a link that you can send to the client where they can complete the mortgage application on their phone, on a computer, desktop, whatever. Or you can also take the application via a Zoom call or over the phone. I would say 80%, maybe even 90% of the mortgage applications I take are over the phone mortgage applications. I very, very, very rarely sit down in front of a client and take an application because they're just like, hey, Enrique, why are we gonna drive an hour and sit in front of each other for another hour taking the application when we could just get it done really quickly, 15 minutes on a Zoom call or on a phone? And the third point here is that when it comes to communicating with underwriters, your processors, and even realtors, most of it is going to be over the phone or via email. For example, when I used to work at a direct lender, I never ever met or saw my processor. It was always just emails and phone calls. And even today, I have yet to meet an underwriter in person. For the most part, it's just emails, it's just phone calls. So if you're looking to become a loan officer, the first step is getting your pre-licensing education. One of the leading companies and the companies that I use for my pre-licensing education is OnCourse, and I have partnered up with them, and they're offering the Enrique Greatness family 20% off your purchase. And another thing I'll do for you guys that do use OnCourse is I'll provide you a 20% off discount code for my website where I have materials and packages to help you grow your business. Things like a homebuyer booklet, a homebuyer trifold, a homebuyer workshop. I also have packages where you can get a great deal on these things. So make sure you check out OnCourse and my website for more materials. Part 3, now let's talk about how to actually build a strong remote business, because it's not just about, being remote. You also need to deliver and have tools and resources in order to have that business. Now, the first thing I recommend is being very descriptive and informative, right? Because you're not face to face. And face to face, you're able to communicate stronger and explain things on a higher level if you're face to face. So if you're gonna be completely virtual, then you need to make sure you make up for that. How do you make up for that? Have very, very descriptive and informative text messages, emails. I would never just rely on phone calls, just rely on Zoom calls. Because when you're talking about spoken words, people can forget about them. So whenever I call a client, whenever I have a Zoom call, I always back it up with stuff in writing, whether it's a text message of a summary of what we spoke about, or an email with a summary of what we spoke about. That way they can have everything in writing, because if we just do a phone call, they're going to forget. So make sure you have as many things as possible in writing so they can refer back to it. The second point here is have a lot of educational content that this person can refer to, right? Back to being informative. You wanna make sure that they're comfortable. A lot of times when you're virtual, you're over the phone, they're gonna be lacking that comfortability, that confidence in you, because they can't see you, right? They don't know if you're AI, they don't know if you're a robot. So you wanna give them that confidence, give them that reassurance with education. Educate them. And this is where I would definitely check out my marketing materials on my website. I have a homebuyer booklet, a homebuyer workshop that's super essential. I have a homebuyer trifold, and I even have some packages that you guys can check out in order to deliver a greater and stronger educational experience for your clients. And the third thing is going to be utilizing as much video as possible, whether it be through training videos. Like one thing I do is I film myself going through my homebuyer workshop and I send it over to the client. That way they can watch it on their own time. Another thing I use are Loom videos. It's a website called Loom, Loom, and I'll record myself going over a quote for a client. That way they can watch it 1,000 times. All right, last point here is make sure you're very trustworthy and reliable, because you're not in person, right? So there's always gonna be that sense of, uncomfortability, unreliance, untrustworthiness, because they can't see you. They don't know if you're a ghost, right? So you wanna make sure you're always delivering great service, you always perform, because when you don't, that person's gonna go to someone that they can see, that they do have more confidence with, right? You're just gonna have more reality with someone that you can see in person. So make sure you're very, very reliable. For example, there's an insurance agent that I love working with. I've never, ever met them in person, but because they do such a great job, great service, super trustable, super reliable, I trust them with my business. But it's because of those things, right? So if they didn't have those things, I would go to someone completely different. So it is possible to have a remote business as a loan officer. Make sure you incorporate these things. And if you have more questions, reach out to me. See you for the next one, and be great.